Hey y'all, welcome to Lumberjillville. Women's wrestling lives here. Today we have a really exciting review. First time in the line for her Rhea Ripley and her Basic Series 114 figure. Now this is brand new, and I'm really excited to look at this honestly. So let's take a closer look.
Good day, mate. I'm super excited for your review.
Wait a second, Comair Alexa, there's something different about your voice.
Aren't you a curious little bloke?
A bloke? I don't even know what that is, honestly. But now I'm convinced. Okay, today's review is Rhea Ripley, who's Australian. And you just happened to change your voice to an Australian accent. Am I right about that? Oh, and is that a freaking boomerang you're holding?
You don't know what a bloke is? You're a few stubbies short of a six-pack.
I don't know whether to be impressed or offended by your Australian terminology today.
Crikey, mate. Don't get your budgie smugglers in and not trying to figure me out. Can we please just review this Rhea Ripley figure? It looks like a bonzer of a figure.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. But first, let's put some shrimp on the bobby!
Bloody bogan.
Alright, so the first thing I want to say is, this basic 114 Rhea Ripley, this was the figure that took me the longest to pre-order. And the reason for that is, during the Comic-Con image releases, we all saw images of Elite Series 84 Rhea Ripley, and it was stunning. I mean, I'm really excited to see how that figure turns out. So my expectations were pretty low for the basic. But I did decide to pre-order it because, hey, that's kind of what we do here in Lumberjillville. Try to give you all a first look so you can decide for yourselves if you want to get it or pass on it. But that being said, just looking at it in the box, it looks pretty dang cool, especially for a basic. Now, obviously this is just a basic packaging, not much to it. And if you know me at all, you know that I just open them up. So, without further ado, now, it is nice that we finally got a Rhea Ripley figure. As I mentioned before, she has an awesome looking Elite coming out. But what I really like about this basic line, even though it's not really directed toward collectors, there still is a niche for collectors. Because in Series 113 we got our first Mia Yim, 114 we get our first Rhea Ripley, and Series 115 we get our first Tegan Nox. All women deserving of their first in the line figures, in whatever form it may be. So I like how they're doing that. And to be honest with you, just looking at this figure before we get a closer look, it looks awesome, but I think y'all are going to notice the flaw that I see, and that's that her legs are super, super skinny, okay? And I thought maybe they reuse the legs from another recent women's basic, as they usually do, but they didn't. And looking closely at Sasha, she's got some muscle definition. And even the infamous Nikki Cross basic has thicker legs. Whereas Rhea Ripley here, they're just kind of straight without any real muscle tone. So that's a little bizarre choice. But that's the biggest flaw that I can see in this. Now that being said, let's take a close look at that face. Now the first thing I'm going to say about this face scan is it is awesome. Now something interesting to note is images of the Elite Series 84 looks like it might be a different face scan, or at least a different hair sculpt. So this actually might be the one and only hair sculpt / face scan of this exact style. So that's kind of interesting to note. But looking up close, I mean, obviously the face looks great. The eye makeup looks like her thick earrings. Something that really stands out is her signature choker necklace is there. It's a little hard to see, and it's just a thick black line, but it's there. Now, this hairstyle rules, honestly. And I didn't realize just how detailed it was till I looked up close. And on the right side, you could actually see intricate braids. Just like her hair in real life. So that's definitely an exceptional detail that they added. Having the braids on the right side and then that brush over on the left, it's really high quality, honestly, and I'm blown away. So moving on to her attire, this is a pretty common theme that we see in these women's basics, especially as of recent, and that's that there's very little to no molding on the actual attires. Mia Yim was an exception with that lower extremity sash she had around her waist and also those pants. And sometimes this all painted attire works and sometimes it doesn't. A situation where it doesn't work is on that basic Nikki Cross, but a situation where it does work is on Rhea Ripley here, and I'll show you why. So this upper extremity top, like I mentioned, there's no molding. It's just painted on. But it's very fitting to her. And the fact that they added that metallic silver paint to have the RA and then Ripley looks great. Honestly, it pops. Now moving on to that lower extremity, I have to tell you, I know we covered this before, but the legs bother me. I mean, that's the one and only negative I can say about this figure. And honestly, that probably is the only negative I can say about this figure. But moving on to the lower extremity, again, very intricate and highly detailed paint application, which when they do that on these women's basics, I can look past the lack of molding. So she has little silver lines going around her waist, silver studs going down, little silver buckle painted on, 2 mesh square openings painted on to give the appearance of the skin tone showing through, which looks awesome. Now a nice little additional detail that they really didn't have to do on a basic, but they did, is she has her little thumb tattoo. And it looks great. So honestly, as far as the attire goes, this works. Some situations when they do the only paint application, it doesn't, but this looks awesome. And let's take one last look at this Rhea Ripley Basic 114. So, before I give a score to this Basic Series 114 Rhea Ripley, I have to remind y'all that I do have separate scores for Basics and Elites. I understand that Basics are at a lower price point, a lot less attention to detail, molding, accessories, etc. goes into it. So, that being said, I give Basic Series 114 Rhea Ripley a score of a 9.5 out of 10. Now, I know that's really high, but in all actuality, if these legs were more muscular, more realistic to how her legs actually look, it'd be a 10 out of 10 as far as a women's basic figure goes. I mean, the face is great. The hair sculpt's great. This attire, even though it's not molded on, it looks great painted on. So this is a near perfect basic, and it pains me that these legs aren't normal, or muscular. Otherwise, it'd look perfect, and this would be perfect. So that's still a really good score for a really good basic. Now, if you're looking to get a Rhea Ripley figure, I have to remind y'all that there is an Elite Series 84 coming out in the next few months, and that will be superior to this if I had to guess. However, if you don't want to wait and you want to spend less money on a figure, go pick up this Basic Series 114 Rhea Ripley, because it rocks. Thanks for stopping by Lumberjillville. Women's wrestling lives here. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, and join the community for all future women's wrestling figure reviews. We even have some throwback reviews coming up, including a figure history of Nikki Bella figures. Have a good night, y'all.